Hi, I'm Sue Lindsay, naturopath and herbalist, and welcome to my channel. I talk about women's health and hormones and how you can use herbal medicines, nutrition, diet, and lifestyle to support your health and well-being, particularly through the midlife period. So if you like that as well, please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon in more videos. Also, I have lots of videos already on the channel, so do check them out. In this video series, I'm looking at evidence-based herbs for perimenopause and menopause. The midlife period for women involves functional, structural, chemical, hormonal changes. And as a naturopathic clinician, I've seen firsthand in the last 2 decades how a simple herbal protocol can do so much for women to alleviate the key symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, mood change, and sleep disturbance. I've also taught in naturopathic degrees for over a decade, and I'm currently doing my doctorate in women's health research. I spend a lot of time, therefore, looking at the evidence for complementary medicine. Recently, I've been looking at research on perimenopausal herbs, and having looked at several randomized controlled trials, some systematic reviews and meta-analyses, some evidence reviews, I've found the most evidence-based herbal medicines that can help to regain hormonal health in perimenopause. This is the second video in this series. So the first video focuses on an extensively researched herb for midlife symptoms called Black Cohosh. So to learn more about its uses, evidence, and how it works, please check out that video first. I'll put the link below. So now let's talk about St. John's wort, Hypericum perforatum. In her book, The Menopause Brain, Dr. Lisa Mosconi gives it a high level of scientific proof of efficacy, and certainly this is one of our better researched herbs generally. From what I've seen in clinic, the benefits of St. John's wort in midlife lie in its ability to reduce anxiety and stress and to lift mood. Exploring options for depression and low mood in perimenopause and menopause is an important but perhaps not an always popular topic. Sometimes it's difficult to talk about, sometimes it's difficult to hear as well. A 2024 systematic review found that perimenopausal women are 1.4 times as likely to experience depressive symptoms compared to premenopausal women. So this could look and feel like depression, like flatness, apathy, low mood. It could also feel like helplessness, neurotic behaviors even, and low self-esteem. Promising evidence does exist for the effectiveness of St. John's wort in reducing depression, mood swings, anxiety, and hot flashes. The chemicals in this plant that contribute to its medicinal effects include flavonols, flavanol derivatives, bioflavonoids, proanthocyanidins, rutin, quercetin, xanthones, floroglucinol, and naphthodianthrones. One of the naphthodianthrones is called Hypericum, and it's been shown in studies to reduce neuroinflammation and to improve memory and learning. One of the flavonoids is called hypericide, and then we have hyperforin, which is another key chemical in this plant. It's a type of phenolic compound, and it's been shown to contribute to the antidepressant effect. However, St. John's wort sits alongside herbals like ginkgo, valerian, lemon balm, and kava, which may be proven to support sleep and anxiety and mood swings, cognitive decline and depression, but not always in midlife women. So we run into issues with what's known as generalizability here, where most of the studies use participants of a certain age group, demographic, economic or educational level that doesn't reflect the group we're actually looking at, which in this case is midlife women. So therefore, we can't always expect the same results in our bodies as we might have seen come up in the studies. This is where consulting a herbalist or a naturopath becomes important because they can match you to the right herbs and the right dosage. To be honest, a lack of studies in midlife women is one of the challenges when it comes to finding this sort of evidence for phytomedicines or plant medicines for women. Things are starting to shift thanks to a growing bed of research pushing for more publication in this area. And as a side note, if you're not familiar with it yet, the Midlife Women's Health Initiative, it's a dedicated platform for promoting and publishing research into midlife health for women around the globe. You can read more about it in the link I've provided here and below. So how does St. John's wort alleviate mood symptoms in midlife? There's interactivity with neurochemistry, particularly serotonin, and a relaxant, sedative, and calming effect that reduces stress and anxiety in your physiology. It slows down the natural breakdown of your feel-good neurochemicals. So we're talking about serotonin, dopamine, so on. And it slows their breakdown by inhibiting the enzymes that break them down or catalyze them. These are known as the monoamine oxidase A and B enzymes. It also inhibits the uptake of serotonin, dopamine, and noradrenaline, leaving them free to roam. Some studies have found that St. John's wort even works on GABA and glutamate receptors. All of these actions lead to more feel-good chemistry circulating through your body and mind. But does this translate to improvements in hot flashes and night sweats? Yes, it does. A 2019 study by Itamarnia et al. Found that St. John's wort alleviated depression as well as hot flashes, and to directly quote the authors, the frequency and intensity of hot flashes and the score of Kupperman scale significantly decreased in the Hypericum perforatum group compared to the control group. You've got a really strong p-value there for statistical significance. In addition, the intensity of depression significantly decreased in the Hypericum perforatum group, that's St. John's wort, compared to the control group. At the end of the study, 80% of women in the intervention group, St. John's wort, did not have depression compared to only 5.7% in the control group. You got another good statistically significant p-value there. So the conclusion, according to the authors, treatment with Hypericum perforatum is an efficient way of reducing hot flashes, menopausal symptoms, and depression in postmenopausal women. So just as an aside here, this is a very promising trial. Bear in mind, there were about 70 or so participants. This is a small number of participants. And also, we need a lot more studies to really feel fully confident. So it's promising, and it's giving us a sense of the efficacy that St. John's wort can have. We just need to keep replicating it all over the globe to see how that goes in different groups of women. But importantly, it was in midlife women. St. John's wort has the potential to work on two key causes of depression in midlife women. The first one is called the estrogen withdrawal theory. Estrogen fluctuations as you near the end of your fertile years are a key cause of the impaired metabolism of neurochemicals, and that affects your mood. Neurochemicals that we're talking about here include dopamine, endorphins, noradrenaline, and serotonin. So you're thinking about mood, motivation, vitality, feeling safe and well, and your normal stress response. And all of these neurochemicals get thrown into chaos with the dramatic ebbs and flows of estrogen, specifically estradiol. St. John's wort can support neurochemical status in this chaotic time. It even gets a mention, as I said before, in Neuroscientist, Dr. Lisa Mosconi's book, The Menopause Brain, which is fantastic, by the way. I highly recommend you read it. And this really highlights its high scientific proof of efficacy for specific symptoms, so anxiety, mood, and depression in perimenopause. Along with this, there's HPA axis dysfunction. And this is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal. It's like a communication loop that drives the production of your stress hormones like cortisol. St. John's wort is a calming and soothing herb that can help your adrenal system to cope and adapt to stress, and it takes the pressure off your cortisol, calming your system down. It doesn't feature perhaps as highly in the cortisol lowering category as herbs like ginkgo, perhaps ashwagandha, but most herbalists would agree that the stress lowering effects of St. John's wort cannot be underestimated. St. John's wort has a solid reputation for improving mood, so most studies have focused on a neurochemical mechanism of action, For the alleviation of hot flashes, St. John's Wort scores a strength C recommendation, not particularly strong, from the 2021 Italian Menopause Society, compared to Black Cohosh, which has a strength A, and soy products, which have a strength B. So it's not recognized as being as effective as Black Cohosh and soy. However, when you see a naturopath or herbalist, they can combine herbs for you into your own unique formula. A 2006 study by Ubelhack et al. Showed significant reduction in mood and vasomotor symptoms in menopausal women when they combined St. John's Wort with Black Cohosh. And those two together remain a powerful super duo for combating hot flashes and night sweats. In a systematic review published in the same year, authors Geller and Studi stated, and I directly quote here, Black Cohosh appears to be one of the most effective botanicals for the relief of vasomotor symptoms, while St. John's Wort can improve mood disorders related to the menopause transition. So why not have the best of both worlds? The wonderful thing about herbal medicines is that you don't have to choose just one. They often work better synergistically when you combine them compared to when you take them alone. There were two notable studies in the early 2000s which focused on this particular combination of herbs for menopausal symptoms. One in 2006 by Brown, and in this study they had 294 women complete a 16-week treatment of St. John's Wort and Black Cohosh, and then they compared them to a placebo group. And I directly quote here, compared to baseline, the mean menopause rating scale, total score, decreased in the treatment group by 34.8% at week 8 and 50% at week 16. So they had reduced their symptoms by half in 4 months. This was compared to a 19.6% reduction in placebo group. There's also the 2006 study I mentioned previously by Ubelhack, and I quote here, the average or mean menopause rating scale score decreased 50% in the treatment group, 20% in the placebo group. The Hamilton Depression Rating Score decreased 41.8% in the treatment group and only 12.7% in the placebo group. They then concluded we could demonstrate that the fixed combination of Black Cohosh and St. John's Wort is a reliable and safe means to alleviate climacteric complaints, menopausal vasomotor symptoms, with a predominant psychological component. This is pointing you to think about the use of St. John's Wort and Black Cohosh if you do have those vasomotor symptoms, but you also have mood issues and mood symptoms. So back to that Iranian study in 2019. This was a randomized controlled trial that began with 80 postmenopausal women aged between 45 and 60 years. And they took a standard daily dose of St. John's Wort between 270 to 330 milligrams 3 times a day, or they took placebo over a period of 2 months. And there was a significant drop in the frequency of hot flashes in the St. John's Wort group, shown in table 2 here. And you can see it goes from 4.26 in the beginning down to 2.51 by week 4, down to 1 by week 6, and 0.6 by week 8. Now take a look at the table of results for the intensity of hot flashes. By week 4, no hot flashes of severe intensity in the St. John's Wort group, compared to 15 by week 4, 11 by 6, and still 11 by week 8 in the control group. By week 8, there were no moderate intensity hot flashes in the St. John's Wort group, compared to 19 in the control group. So in this study, we see St. John's Wort is reducing both the frequency and intensity of hot flashes, and it's doing so significantly. I couldn't find much evidence that goes against the use of St. John's Wort, but it is important to note here some interactions with pharmaceutical medications. This is, I would say, the primary reason why it may not always be prescribed by your naturopath or herbalist. It shouldn't be taken alongside anti-neoplastic drugs, the oral contraceptive, antidepressants, including SSRIs, warfarin, other anticoagulants, HIV medications, and along with any drugs that are broken down by the liver enzyme group CYP450 and their subtypes. So this is one herb that should only be professionally prescribed by a herbalist or a naturopath, and then let your GP know if you're on any long-term medications. It's important that they know. The liver enzyme interaction with the CYP450 group is mainly due to high levels of hyperforin in certain extracts of St. John's wort, and it induces those enzymes to clear drugs from your system more quickly. So this is very important. If your drug medication has a narrow therapeutic range, you need to make sure that you're always maintaining the level that you need in your bloodstream. So lastly, who would benefit from taking St. John's wort? This is a herb that is strongly supported by evidence to naturally manage mild to moderate depressive symptoms. It suits women with low mood, with sleep issues and sleep disturbance. It does also suit women with high cortisol who are a little bit edgy and alert. And it's great for anxiety, PMS, possibly PMDD with anxiety, as long as it's being professionally prescribed by a herbalist or a naturopath. So if you have a history of depression, there is a higher risk of depressive symptoms in perimenopause, and St. John's wort could be very beneficial for you here. Along with alleviating the symptoms of midlife, it helps you to stay calm, collected, gets you feeling better. And sometimes, honestly, that's all you need. The evidence for its effectiveness in hot flashes and night sweats is not as strong, and it should not be taken by anyone on SSRIs. Please remember that. Daily dose is 1 to 3 grams daily. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you for listening. Have a beautiful day. If you do like this content, please like and subscribe. That's how you can support my work and see more videos from me.